Books as Memory Bridges, LLC publishes read-aloud photojournals for caregivers of people with conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia that interfere with communication. Here to talk about their series of books called Caregiver Tools is Derek Ferebee and Laura Levitan. Good morning, Derek and Laura. We're so excited to have you. It's fun to have two people on the show. Although there's not a whole lot of room on the set.
Thank you for having us.
We're kind of squeezed together, so we're trying to make it work. Breathing room. Okay, so my first question, and I always like to ask this, is tell me about yourselves and what are your contributions to this project that we're going to be talking about today? Who wants to start? Laura?
Okay. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and most of my career, which it's about 20 years now, has been in the medical field at hospital, Baptist Hospital, West Florida Memory Disorder Clinic.
Okay, great.
And the Health Center of Pensacola Nursing Home.
Wow, so you do have a lot of experience with the elderly in particular, which is perfect for
the
this
elderly
segment.
is my favorite population.
Me too, actually, as it turns out. It helps when you work at Council on Aging and you like the elderly. What about you, Derek? I know you're a photographer, so what are your contributions on this project?
Well, I've been doing photography for a little over 20 years myself, and I met Mary Beth Sloan. She's our third partner in this book in 2009. She and I were both part of Write on Pensacola, a writers group. And I was writing a children's book, and we met, and she liked my photographs and said, would you mind allowing me to use your photographs? I have an idea about a book that we ended up titling Reminiscence, and it was a book with her poems matched with my photographs so that we could, help people with dementia and the caregivers.
That's really awesome. Well, you kind of segued perfectly into my next segment. Question. We're not into another segment. But my second question is, how did these books come to be? Well, tell us a little bit about the books first and what they are and who they're for, and then tell me about how they came to be.
Well, Mary Beth Sloan, she took care of her in-laws. They both had forms of dementia, and so she's a retired nurse, and so she was a caregiver for them. And she understood that it was kind of hard to communicate with them when they weren't able to communicate. So she got this idea of using photographs, because photographs, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So you're able to talk to somebody using photographs. It gives them a little more sense of able to communicate, whether they can communicate a lot or whether they're limited in communication. Pictures bring back so many wonderful memories.
Right. That's what I was about to say. I'm sure it triggers a lot of memories for people visually, and using the senses, I'm sure, help a lot in triggering those memories.
I was very close to my grandmother. She had vascular dementia, advanced stages, and was living in the nursing home. And I wanted to find a way that I could reach her, to communicate with her differently, and also a tool for my patients. And I met Mary Beth Sloan when I was working at the Memory Disorder Clinic at West Florida. Her nursing skills, my social work skills, and Derek's photography skills brought together our team that created Caregiver Tools, Bridging Memories. Caregiver Tools, Bridging Memories is a book that has questions that serve as prompts and photographs, everyday family photos that Derek has taken and we have compiled. Our reminiscence therapy book is photographs with beautiful poems, and these trigger reminiscence therapy.
Yeah, and I think that's great because I think Alzheimer's is something that's and dementia are more top of mind now, and I don't know the statistics behind that. I don't know if it's something that it's just because it's an increasing issue, or I know there was a recent movie, Still Alice, that kind of brought to light the impact that it has on families. And I don't know how you do what you do. I think I would cry every day.
Well,
I think I would.
This is what these books are for. So many people, family members, don't know how to communicate with somebody who may not be able to communicate the way they used to. And so going to a nursing home and visiting your mother, your father, your grandparents, your aunt and uncle, you don't know what to say because the communication there is not the same. But that's not important.
Sure.
You need to be in the moment. They can't communicate the same way. But you pick up one of these books and show them a photograph. If it's a picture of a wedding couple, Hey, Mom, Dad, remember when you married Mom? Tell me about that. Some of them can remember bits and pieces. If they can't, you can tell them. The idea behind these books is that they're not alone, that they have somebody with them next to them, even if it's for 45 minutes, an hour, even if it's only for 15 minutes. You're with somebody who may not, well, that does have the isolation, the depression, because they're not who they are. And a lot of times they know it. So you're just there, you're with them, you're sharing a moment, and with that, you're also helping them get through the day.
I imagine one of the most frustrating things about Alzheimer's and dementia is the loss of the ability to truly communicate with the people that you love on both sides, the caregiver and the person that is getting the caregiving. So I imagine that this tool is going to be really helpful to people. And I've seen videos of music therapy and stuff like that for folks with Alzheimer's. So what makes the photography special? Using the photography in the poems special?
Well, the photography in the 3 different books are very specific. One of them is, that I remember, is just old photographs. An old car, somebody, an old building, an old lamppost, something that most people can really kind of remember. They're generic kind of pictures. The reminiscence are really spectacular, beautiful pictures, scenic shots, beautiful vistas. And then Mary Beth has made poems to kind of match that, and that helps the caregiver. The third one, Caregiver Tools, Bridging Memories, those are everyday pictures. Some of them are fuzzy, blurry, some of them are not critically or technically perfect, but they're pictures that everybody has in their photo albums. So you can sit next to somebody that might have an issue and say, look, remember the family vacation we took? Here's a picture of us getting in the car. And you can talk about that trip. You can talk about the car. It can lead to so many other things. So we don't have just one kind of photograph. We have 3 different kind of photographs. Some are really, really spectacular, and some are just everyday normal pictures that everybody has. But it tends to lend to the people, it's common. They can get it, I guess.
Sure. I mean, and if it's common too, I'm sure it brings back some of those common memories that we all experience, cooking with our mom or going on a walk with, you know. So I think that's really great.
All healthcare providers and facilities benefit from the book because unfortunately, too many times we see the person when they are dependent or depressed or disabled, and we forget about the history, their life history, when they were at a happier, vital time in their life. And when you give a person a chance to be able to educate you, that puts them in the teacher role. And it makes them feel good about themselves. And anytime you can have an interaction between 2 people that is a positive social interaction, that increases a person's mood and increases their good feelings about themselves.
So many times, especially if they're in a nursing home or an assisted living facility, they're by themselves. The only interaction they have is when the nurse comes in to give them a shot or, you know, change medication or change them or the beds. Not very pleasant experiences. But when somebody comes in, sits down next to you, holds your hand, pulls out a book, asks about how you're doing, talks to you, that's a pleasurable experience. It also helps stimulate the brain if you're not being stimulated on a regular basis. So it really does not only boost their mood, but it also boosts the brain power.
Well, and this kind of do a shameless plug is that Council on Aging does have the Adult Day Health Care Center, the retreat, and we see that all the time. We bring folks in to, I don't know, it could be reading or playing music or doing some kind of talent show, playing bingo, and just that stimulated environment gives them like that sense of purpose again and fellowship with people that are kind of going through the same thing in life. And so we've seen that ourselves and the benefit of having that.
The greatest gift you can give someone is your time. And so many people are so lonely and bored, and they are yearning for that social interaction that can be given, and for you to be able to let them tell you a bit of history about their life is so important to them, and it gives them a sense of
Value.
worth and value.
Absolutely. Well, have you seen how these particular tools have impacted folks yet? I mean, have you
Yes.
watched clients and caregivers interact using these tools?
I use our books all the time at the Health Center of Pensacola. I do supportive counseling there, and it is so therapeutic because it does strengthen their cognitive abilities. It does help with boredom and depression.
Right.
And I learn so much from my patients. They tell me about what they used to
Right.
do, whether they were in the Peace Corps or whether they had to get up and walk 2 miles a day to milk dairy cows. And one gentleman told me about his mother having to row them from Hobbs Island across the island to go to school every day. So it's just different bits and pieces. You get to learn more about your patient or family member or the person you're caregiving for, and share when they were independent, when they were vital, and something that they're proud of. And you're constantly learning more and more. And I've developed About Me boards.
About Me boards? Tell us a little bit more about that.
An About Me board is a poster that I've used our Caregivers Tool or reminiscing after I use all the books with them. I make a poster that says About Me, for instance, Laura Levitan, and I would put key things about that person so when other staff members or family or friends come to visit, they can see life
That's really
history
neat.
stories about them.
That is so neat, and I'm sure many of these folks have really rich histories, things that they've done and
yes.
been through, and I love talking about myself, so I can only imagine and that they enjoy talking about, you know, the stuff that they've experienced growing up and the lives that they've lived too, and I think that's really great. So tell me again exactly how this process works, because we kind of touched on it a little bit here and there, but you have the book. So what do you sit down and do you do any training with the caregivers or folks that are interacting with them?
We have instruction in the book. The Caregiver Tools Bridging Memory book has questions that serve as prompts. And our books are devised this way so that when you're sitting next to someone who is in a bed or in a wheelchair, they can see the picture, and the text is large enough for them to be able to read
Great.
the questions as well, because we wanted it to be something that they could read and something that they could
can
see.
touch if, you know, they're able to touch it.
Perfect.
Because a lot of times, you know, people that are older, they like to touch and point to things.
Right.
So you're in that position where you're close to them, you're bonded to them.
Well, this is great information, and I hate it because we're going to have to wrap it up, but we do have your website listed
Okay.
on the screen, and I know if people have questions, they can check it out. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. We
Thank
really
you so
appreciate you
much.
both. Thank
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.